Start though with, of course, Aston Villa. Their midfielder Morgan Rogers faced mocking cheers from the Villa supporters, some of the Villa supporters we should say, after his difficult start to the season continued, despite John McGinn's goal giving them a first win in any competition this season. So Rogers the focus of fans' frustration last night, and here is exactly why. He's completed 10 of his 24 attempted passes at Villa Park last night, lost possession 29 times and remains without a goal or an assist in 555 minutes of football this season.
He was not today being clinical offensively, but he needs to take experiences like today, not playing very well. The crowd as well, something not happy with him, and he has to get as well these experiences and grow up through it.
Jay Bothroyd, Morgan Rogers, Aston Villa fans, and look, we should say some Aston Villa fans, because there'll be many of them watching this morning said, well, look, that wasn't me, I don't agree with that whatsoever. But plenty of them could be heard jeering him and mocking him last night. What do you make of this situation?
I mean, initially I thought, you know, sometimes as a player you're going to experience some kind of situations. That's just the part of the game. But obviously it's not nice. I think if every time you touch the ball there's going to be jeers. I mean, the fact that he lost the ball 29 times, obviously that is, you know, that's really poor as well for a player of his stature. But I think this just kind of comes from the fact that he's had a great season last year. He's one of the best young players in the world.
Oh, Jay, there are plenty of players who've had a great season last season. They don't get jeered by their own fans. Look, we know Aston Villa fans.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Gerrard used to say they get on you quickly at that football club, right?
Yeah,
they don't give you much chance, right? But is this? I'm getting to the point. Let's get to it quickly. Is it because they are just resigned to losing this guy? There was a lot of talk in the transfer window that he was going to go to Chelsea, he was going to go to Liverpool, that he was going to go to Tottenham. You know, they're not booing John McGinn.
Okay, here's one for you. When I was at Cardiff, there was a situation at Cardiff. When I played for England, I came back and I got injured. And then there was a situation where I didn't score for a few games. And fans started to say, oh, he's not interested in staying here. Because I was...
You were out the door.
Yeah, my contract was running down, and they was like, oh, we're resigned to losing him. He doesn't want to be here no more. He's not focused anymore. And it's not like that. You don't know what... As a player, your standards are not always going to be up here. You know, you're going to go through tough times. I think that's what Morgan Rogers is going through now. And, you know, them little 5- and 10-yard passes that were easy last year, when you're not having a good time, they're difficult. All of a sudden, you're thinking about it. Of course, it's not good to hear that fans are booing you. That's not going to help him. If anything, if I was Rogers and I'm hearing that kind of thing, if that continues, I'd be thinking, well, yeah, I'm going to get my form back here, but then, yeah, I do want to go.
Exactly, but Jay, the point is, what's the end game from Villa fans? And if you were one of those who were jeering Morgan Rogers, because it wasn't just a joke.
There's no end game here, because all that's going to happen is you're going to upset him even worse.
It's not even well, is it?
No, exactly. You're going to upset him even more. He's a human at the end of the day. And when you keep on, you know, you get on someone's back and you're always on his back, you're booing. Every time he touches the ball, you're jeering. That's not good. It's just going to upset him. It's not going to help him play better. If anything, what would help him is players, you know, the fans clapping him, you know, being there supportive for him. Because, like you said, he had a great year last year. Yeah. He's a great young player.
I'm going to let the viewers into a little secret, because when you came in this morning, Jay, you said no.
No, I did say that. I agree with the Villa fans. I did say that. I agree. I said I agree that fans have the right to boo the team. Yeah. When it's individual, that's harsh. Yeah. But to boo the team, 100%.
And to be fair, Emery, after the game, right, we heard a clip.
I didn't like that, by the way.
What?
I didn't like what Emery said there.
Which bit?
Because I think Emery should be like protecting Morgan Rogers. If that was someone like Wenger, Guardiola...
Managers don't do that anymore. Have you seen Slot recently with Ekitike?
But, yeah, I mean, but that was just silliness from Ekitike. That was just silly. Yeah, that's a stupid decision. But we're talking about a performance here. If that was someone like Guardiola, Arteta, Alex Ferguson, they would be putting their arm around Morgan Rogers and saying, listen, he's done this, he's done that, he's going through a tough time, but we completely believe in him. He just hung him out to... I don't want to say completely hung him out to dry, but he didn't... If I listened to them words, I wouldn't feel like my manager's supporting me.
He said he left him on the pitch, Jay, to see Morgan Rogers' reaction. That's what Emery said.
I mean, and yes, sometimes that goes well for you. You have a player that plays himself into having a good game. You know, plenty of times, you know, I started off a game really bad, but then as the game goes on, you start getting your touches, you start getting your feeling, you end up scoring, you come off, and, you know, you can say, I've had a decent game now. That's probably what Emery's done, because he is a very talented player. But ultimately, if I was listening to what Emery said there, I wouldn't be happy with them comments. I'd want my manager to, you know, put his arm around me, stick up for me, so to speak. But
if he did have any sort of incentive to leave, it's only going to push that down the line, isn't it?
And you know what, let's be honest, like, Aston Villa are a very good club. They're not playing very well at the moment. A lot of players are underperforming, especially Watkins. He hasn't scored this season. And if anything, he's the one person that needs to, like, pick that team up and lead it. Morgan Rogers is still a young player. Ollie Watkins is an experienced player, very good forward, scores goals, gets assists. He needs to help move that team forward now. Yeah,
let's jeer all the Villa players and see how they get on this season, shall we? Look, Sky Sports have partnered with Finalysis, an app where passionate fans share their opinions on their club. And if you want to represent your club, and we encourage you to do so, scan that big QR code on your screen. Visit the Sky Sports app as well for more details. And we now can speak to an Aston Villa supporter, Gary Bennett. Gary, were you one of those jeering Morgan Rogers?
No, I wasn't. I can't get on board with that.
Gary, would you admit it if you was?
Yeah, I would, absolutely. And I don't think it's just solely on that game last night. I think the problem is he's had 6 appearances so far this season, and he's been awful in all of them. And so it's a kind of combination of everything.
Just him, Gary? Just him?
No, not just him, but him and Watkins mainly. And you talk about the transfer speculation, and it feels like the pair of them are ready to down tools, like they're looking elsewhere. And you look at Rogers' performance, and when things don't go right for you in football, you know, you guys know this, you can control the basics, right? You can control your energy levels, you can control kind of your effort and kind of trying to make things happen. And yesterday, for me, watching it there live at the game, Rogers just didn't do that off the ball, and he was, you know, when he did try something, it all came off, and then eventually he just came to that cheer.
But Gary, I understand what you're saying, and I understand from the frustration from some of the fans. But ultimately, when you're going through a tough time, everything seems a lot harder. You know, making that final pass, having a shot that you would, you know, 8 times out of 10 hit the target. Like, it all seems much more difficult. And we've seen it over the last, you know, few years, like players having a great season and then starting the season off poorly. Like Foden had a terrible season last year.
City fans didn't jeer him every
exactly, and I think that's the point. Jeering players does not help, but I do agree with fans as a whole jeering the team. I think in that part, you know, you guys pay your hard-earned money to go and watch Aston Villa play, and when you look at that squad and you see the way Aston Villa are underperforming as a whole, it's not good enough.
He's got credit in the bank, Gary, from what he's done for that football club. He's been there 2 years in February. He's 23. He's broken into the England squad. He's been absolutely fantastic. He's had 2 minutes where he's had, you know, not the Morgan Rogers of last season. I mean, look, is this a case, Gary, of you guys, you know, you're a sensitive bunch, some of you Villa fans. Are you just a little bit worried, Gary, that he's leaving in January or the summer and you thought, I'll be done with him. Go on, jeer him now. He's off to Liverpool. He's off to Chelsea.
Well, I don't agree with the jeering, but I do think he's had his head turned. I think something's happened in the summer, because if we look at when he went away for England against Serbia, he was outstanding, man of the match performance. He showed what he's capable of doing. So how does your form dip from club level to international level so quickly? And unless you are looking elsewhere and you're motivated to kind of, you know, you're around the England lads and there's probably people in his ear saying things like, you know...
Hold on, Gary. Wasn't Aston Villa motivated? They was trying to sell players. You sold Jacob Ramsey.
But we had no choice.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's not just the player that's had his head turned. Maybe so. But the club would have spoke to the agent and said, this is the fee. If you want Morgan Rogers to leave, it's going to be 80 million. So the fact that the club would have said something along those lines, because Aston Villa's financial position is poor, right? That's why they have to sell the players. So someone like Jacob Ramsey that has gone, Morgan Rogers, that, you know, is probably the most... you're going to get the most money by selling him.
Hold on, what I don't understand here, boys, is
Aston Villa might have pushed him that way.
JJ, if he has had his head turned, right, and like, I understand how that can happen at clubs, and especially if there's big football clubs like Liverpool and Chelsea sniffing around you, how does he think he's going to get a move by, you know, deliberately losing possession and not playing well?
It's not deliberately losing possession. It's just difficult to keep it when you're going through a bad time.
Gary's saying he's had his head turned. So, but does he think he's going to resolve this by not playing to his full potential?
Well, no, and in an ideal world, right, we want players that are, as a Villa fan, if players are going to go on and be successful and go and play for Champions League clubs and things like that, I haven't got any problem with that. We get behind him, we back him, and he's been brilliant for us. He was our best player last year by a country mile, and I think he's got the potential to be one of the world's best. But he's got... When your head's turned, sometimes your confidence is low and you just want to push that move. We all know that in an ideal world, yes, your move would be based on performances, but it doesn't always happen that way.
But Gary, that's your perception. That's your perception as a person and as fans. You don't know what's happened. You don't know what's going on in his life. You don't know these things. You just see at the moment that he's a great player, he's had a great season last year, and that he's having a poor season. And you know what? It's not even a season. It's 5 or 6? It's nothing.
I would give anything to be a fly on the wall, to have a little bit more information. Obviously, we can only base on it what we look at on the TV and what we watch in real life and at the games. And for me, from a player who has just won PFA Young Player of the Year and been an ever-prevalent influence in that side, to go from that to these first 6 performances, not just judging it on last night, if you go back through the first 6 games, his stats are awful.
So why not get behind the guy and sing his name?
Yeah, no, mate, I was there. My voice is practically gone. I'll cheer, and if you see players giving 110%, the Villa fans will back them 100%.
Oh, well, so you think you're saying that he's not working hard even? He's not running?
Last night there was 4 occasions where I watched him trot towards pressing the ball when he could have got there. And it's those little things that you see and you go, why is he not doing that? He did that last year, and he was big and he was strong and he was holding players off. There were 2 incidents yesterday where he was put through one-on-one and he just got muscled off the ball in the first one, and then his decision-making in the second was just... He could have shot on goal, but he decided to play a pass out wide to Kasson, and it was a terrible, terrible, easy pass. Now, I know that's a confidence thing, but for me, there's something not right.
But one thing I would say, and I know this, most players are not going to go through the motions to get a move. To get a move to somewhere like Liverpool, top clubs, Chelsea, anywhere where it's...
You've got to do an Isak, haven't you?
You've got to... You've got to carry on playing well and performing to show that you're worth the 80 million it's going to take for you to leave the club. It's not to play badly. If his stock goes down, someone like Liverpool, Arsenal, whoever it may be, I'm not going to want to sign him.
Jay, surely Jay, it's not what you know, it's who you know in this situation. And if someone's got their eye on him, and you look at the performances from last season, they're going to want him anyway because they know what he can do.
So you look at, just for example, you look at someone like Rafael Leao at AC Milan. Right, you say to yourself, what an unbelievable player. But then AC Milan want 80 million for him. It's like, hold on a second. As much as he's got unbelievable talent, we haven't seen the consistency. We're not willing to pay for him.
It's also not even the 1st of October, guys. He's not going anywhere anytime soon, is he?
Exactly.
Well, so that's the other thing, right? Whatever happens, we've got at least 3 months of him till January, if anything's going to happen.
So shouldn't you get behind him then?
Yeah, mate, I'm 100% behind him. If he's putting in the effort, I'll be
Gary, it sounds like you're one of the ones that was jeering him, I think.
You think Gary's a jeerer? Gary's a jeerer, is he?
Honestly, I wasn't. I don't...
Honestly.
I love this club with my whole heart, mate. I'm never... ever going to be doing that. I don't agree with that.
No, I know.
We need to get beyond
Gary, to balance it out, the Villa fans are a fantastic, proud bunch of people, right? And I've been to Villa Park many, many times.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Steven Gerrard saying when he was manager there that, they will let you know they're an honest bunch as well, right? They'll give you time, but they will judge you quickly. Dean Smith has said it many times as well. But here's my question, and I'm stirring the pot a little bit here, but is there a bigger problem than Morgan Rogers? We had Guillaume Balaguer in the studio yesterday. He's written a book called The Rise of the Villains. Is it more about the fall of the villains now? Because you go back to that last game of the season against Manchester United. Can you pinpoint it on one game? If you'd won that game, your summer would have looked completely different. Your recruitment would have looked completely different. You probably wouldn't have sold Jacob Ramsey, right? You would have probably gone for
you're in the
PSR
Champions
reasons.
League then.
You'd have been in the Champions League, right? But my point being, are wheels not coming off? Are they starting to get a little bit loose on this Villa? I think it's Monchi leaving. It's just Emery unsettled.
It's way too soon to say. I just think it's way too soon to be saying anything really. I mean, we're going to speak about later on the show about Arsenal, for example.
Their form is chalk and cheese from last
but there's only a few games gone. You can't say someone's
7 games. They've scored 3 goals.
You can't say someone's having a terrible season. They started off badly, but if he goes and plays well now between now and the end of the season like last year, it could be in for Player of the Year again.
Maybe, but Jay, I think if you go back, it's not just a few games. From the Crystal Palace semi-final defeat last season to now, there's been a slow, steady kind of decline in our performance. Like, we went on a great run towards the end of last season, got some good results, but then that game against Crystal Palace and the game against Man United, for what was at stake, that it simply wasn't good enough. And Rodgers looked tired in those performances then, and Emery refused to take him off. We've had Daniel Mara.
But hold on, Gary, you're absolutely right there.
No minutes at all. You've got to utilise your squad.
Gaz, you're absolutely right there. But I seem to remember Aston Villa going for a period when they was playing in the Champions League and they was playing in the league where once they played in Europe, they couldn't perform in the Premier League. So then they brought players in, right? So at the moment, I feel like it's the same thing. You take Morgan Rodgers out, who realistically are you bringing on to change the game? Well,
exactly, and that's why he's kept him, because he can do that.
But that's why he keeps them on then, isn't it?
Yeah, but ultimately that affects team morale, and I think you're right there. I'm not saying the wheels are coming off, but with what's happened in the summer and the transfer sagas with Martinez and JJ leaving, it's put... for me, there's something wrong in that dressing room, or has been, and now we've had that Monchi saga, and now that's been put to bed, maybe we can start to steady the ship. But I think it's not a quick fix, Jay, for me. I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I think it's going to be a tough season, and if we can have a run in the Europa League, if we could win it, like, wow, it could change our whole season. But it's early days, like you say.
And just one thing on that. Obviously, the amount of times he lost possession of the ball, for his standards, 29 times is not good enough. But what I will say is players like him are going to lose the ball a lot more than players that are playing safe. Like, you look at Kevin... I bet if you were to look at Kevin De Bruyne would probably lose the ball a lot more than other midfielders that just play the ball safe, because he's trying to affect the game with his passes. That's the only thing I would say, but for his standards, that's still too many.
Yeah. Look, I think you've got to look at the quality around him as well, right? Because last season, in January, for instance, up until January last year, we'd gone through a little bit of a rut then we brought in Rashford and Asensio, and Rodgers came to life. Like, around quality, he comes to life.
Why didn't you sign those two, by the way? I mean, Rashford, I can understand.
Money.
Hold on. Asensio went to Fenerbahce for £7 million.
I know.
Yeah, but it's his salary. It's his salary.
Mate, it's salary.
And over there, it's tax-free over there as well.
We are massively restricted, aren't we, in the wage department? Because, right, whether we agree with it or not, we had to spend to try and make a Champions League squad to compete, which we did, and that's come to bite us in the backside because we haven't been able to now invest properly. But then, as that caused a bit of a divide, because if you think about it, we didn't go for Asensio, we couldn't afford Rashford, but yet we are now paying 80% of Jadon Sancho's wages. And I think some of the players are going, hang on a minute, why are we selling JJ for 40 million and with Tyrone Mings and Luca Dino are taking pay cuts, but we're now paying Sancho, who's unproven and kind of, you know, is a great player and has the potential, but we know he's had a bit of a rocky career so far, right? So,
well, look,
what are we doing there?
Gary, I'll tell you who you need. You need someone like John Duran. Oh, wait, you let him go as well, didn't you? 22 in the Gary, we can talk. It's a fascinating debate, and I'm only winding you up a little bit here. But to finish, Unai Emery got Fulham at the weekend, right? It's an unrecognisable Villa team from what we've seen over the last 48 months, right? 24 months, I should say. Is he still the man for you as a Villa fan with Villa in your heart? Can he turn this around? And are you going to jeer Rodgers again on Sunday against Fulham?
No, I'm not. 100% I'm an Emery in. Right, I would rather get rid of the whole squad and keep Emery. Right, I think he's a world-class football coach. Right, and I think with the right resources and the right players, he'll win trophies. He'll be successful. I think if this season, if he can get a trophy under his belt, the world could be our oyster. But we've got to back him.
What is like the minimum for a good season for Aston Villa this year? With the squad that they've got right now.
OK, so at the start of the season, Jay, before the ball had been kicked off, I was going to say top 8 Europa League. Right now, I'd just take the top 10 and win the Europa League. I think that's got to be the ambition. Emery's got so much experience in that competition. He's won it 4 times. I think he's got the potential to get
that would be a great season.
Look what he did. Look what he did at the start. Right, when he came in, he took Steven Gerrard's team, who we basically still got, and turn them into Champions League team. Right, he can do it with players. He can get the best out of them. So I back him 100% to do it again. I think he can. If Rodgers is going to stay for at least till January of the season, Watkins as well, he can get the best out of these players. But we've got to start utilising the rest of the squad too.
To be honest, I don't see
Gesson, Elliott. They've got to get some game time.
I don't see Rodgers leaving this season. I don't think someone's going to come in the January transfer window and say, here you go, here's 80 million.
Well, maybe not this one.
Let's finish. I think he'll be there for the season.
Let's finish on that. Gary, when we're talking on the 1st of September, whenever the deadline is next week, September, is he going to be a Villa player?
Oh, I don't think so.
Next
I think he's
September,
gonna be gone in the...
next September he might not be, but I think this season he's definitely going to be there.
Right, well, he's got Rodgers on the back of that shirt, Gary, and that was a great call. Gary Bennett, top man. We could go on and on and on, couldn't we? And Villa fans, get in touch. What do you make of Jay Bothroyd's controversial comments on Aston Villa, that they were right to jeer Morgan Rodgers? He didn't say that. Villa fan Phil, by the way, was at the game last night, and he has left us, Jay, this voice note. Let's have a listen.
In Unai we trust. Up the Villa. Morgan was poor. I didn't boo him. I want him to stay. But Unai needs to take him off and give other opportunities until he's ready to come back. Up the Villa.
There we go. Look, just finally on Villa, for now, Jay, I think just picking up on that, is that what you're insinuating he should have done? Take him off, protect him in the post-match press conference. Protect him like Sir Alex would have done.
That's definitely something I would say. Take him off. If you're going to protect him, take him off, put your arm around him in the press conference. Again, protect him
He's
against the media.
He's left him in the fire, hasn't he?
Exactly. And you know what? The only thing I would say is that has he left him on because he doesn't trust anyone else to go and produce in that position?
He said he wanted a reaction. And I tell you what, it'll be a test of his mettle to see how he reacts.
The next game's going to be even more difficult
Fulham
for him.
Sunday at Villa Park again.
Yeah, exactly.